Michele Lamy is someone that has a lot of mystery around her, but yet she is the fashion mogul. There's so many conspiracy theories as to who she is, how she got to where she is now, how she got her fame, and how she became such an important figure in the fashion industry. She is known as the High Preistess of Paris fashion and is worshipped by many celebrities such as the Kardashians, A$AP Rocky, Usher, etc. She's known for her eclectic style, gothic style, and appearance, as well as her gold teeth. And speaking of gold, I would like to thank today's partnership with Ana Luisa. I have partnered with them before and I love the pieces that I got, and I'm still wearing it. It's my everyday piece, but now I stacked it with this beautiful lovely piece and my new bracelet. And it's almost Christmas shopping season, which means Black Friday season is almost upon us, and I know it can get very overwhelming thinking of all of the people that you need to get gifts for, your loved ones that you don't want to miss on your list. But Ana Luisa has one of the biggest sales of the year starting, I believe, right now. And you can be sure that you're getting quality and lasting jewelry pieces that your loved ones or yourself, if you want to get yourself a little something, will be lasting for years. They have a 2-year warranty. They have fast and free shipping in the US and affordable shipping everywhere else. They have a 2-year warranty, so they got you in case anything happens. And they have styles and pieces starting from $39, so you're not gonna break your wallet getting a present, a very nice present that is, for your loved ones. And they have really chic and cute pieces for everyday wear and to dress it up, dress it down, stack it, don't stack it, whatever. They're gorgeous pieces and they're affordable, and you're gonna be wearing them for a very long time. And all you have to do is use my link in the description for 35% off and already very good priced pieces starting at $39, so you're saving money. But make sure you use my link below, especially in this economy. Everyone can use some savings. So thank you, Ana Luisa, for partnering with me. Let's get back to Michele Lamy. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right. I probably am not, but she is French. She was born in Jura. I don't think I'm saying it right either. Jura, France in 1944. So she is about 80 years old, I believe, today. From what I can find, came from a very wealthy family. And like I've said before, and I'll be saying this whole video, there's not much about her that you can actually really find. But she did come from a wealthy Catholic family, so I think like she is very in the Catholic hierarchy and all that stuff. So I think she was able to pursue art and do pretty much whatever she wanted because she came from money. She was first a criminal defense lawyer, I believe in the 60s to 70s. It's very interesting because today you probably wouldn't expect her to be a criminal defense lawyer. However, she then switched her career to cabaret, and basically that is what today would be an exotic dancer, if you will. And I think it's interesting how she came from money. She still chose to do that career. And today when we think of it, it's mostly because people want to make money. And Richard Newton was her first husband, and he was what we will call a spicy film director maker. She had a daughter with Richard Newton named Scarlet Rouge, which is kind of funny because doesn't that just mean red? Something that was a bit alarming I saw in an interview with Scarlett and Michelle was Scarlett mentions how both her parents exposed her to her dad's spicy films when she was a child. That's a bit questionable. I know everyone has their own way of parenting. I'm a parent myself. You know, some people are more free range, some people are more strict, some people are helicopter parents. But showing your child, your daughter, your spicy films, I don't think that is acceptable in any way. But yet, Scarlett mentions this in the interview and says that she was pretty used to seeing her dad's films, and basically said that her parents gave her no limits. And I think it's important to have some limits with being a parent, because it seems like in the interviews that it seems like Michelle is mostly a business partner to Scarlett. Scarlett really wanted a mother figure, but I think she realizes that the only relationship that she will actually have with her mother will be a business partner. And it's kind of sad to see.
Never gave me any limits. My father was making kind of, erotic films, and I was watching them at age 5, and if I show them to my friends, they all run home and like crying to their parents, and I'm just like, what's wrong? Like, I don't get it. Both of my parents were in LA. I don't think Michele came once to visit me when I was living in France.
I was not really there, and we are not like a typical family in a certain way. We were not under the same roof for a long time. Yeah, it's not fight, but like friction. Last year I said, you try to be close. And I say, it seems that we are good to each other. So why not embracing it?
Having a mother-daughter relationship with my mom was not always so easy. She's more interested in us being partners or friends. That's really how we function now. And at first I was a little resistant to that. I was like, oh, but I need a mom, I want a mom, And then I just realized, I just gotta let that go. This is the relationship I can have with her. That's what I should cherish. I guess we have very different ways of looking at the world, and I'm obviously much more in this kind of like spiritual sort of thing, and maybe she's a little bit more of a rationalist philosophy.
She also is an artist. Scarlett is also an artist, and she does these murals, and Michele will talk to her about her art, and it seems like Michele wasn't really a mother figure, and some people in the comments say that, oh, Scarlett is showing her trauma in her art of how she didn't have a mother figure, and that's what she wants. People go to as far as like analyzing how they're posing in the video, that Michelle's on top of Scarlett, and people are saying, see, that's a sign of a narcissist, that she needs to be the center of attention, that she needs to be on top of Scarlett, that everything is about her. However, I do think that's kind of pushing me a little too far, but to each their own. I do think that the most alarming thing that we should be concerned with was that Scarlett was exposed to her dad's spicy films when she was a child. Seems like everyone is saying everything from this is concerning behavior to this is child neglect to just Michele is a demon. Like, there's literally just, that's the range that we're in. I would say that it has always been a thing where alternative people are labeled as demonic, evil, etc. because of how they dress, because they dress eccentric, because they dress different than what the average person wears, music they listen to, basically just how they choose to express themselves. For example, the Satanic Panic.
Out now for 14 years. I've only been able to laugh, and this is a serious statement, I've only been able to laugh out loud for about 10 years now.
As people remember these experiences, they gag, they are nauseous, their entire body remembers what it was like to be there, to see this, to participate in this, to have this done to them.
It's not a game. They really believe this.
I talk about a lot of this in my other videos with Balenciaga and etc. And obviously Michele and Rick have a very goth aesthetic to them, which makes sense for their ideals, how artistic they are, and how they express their artistry. And the ideals of goths typically, at least it should be, is to be against the norm, the standard, the societal expectations, as well as politically liberal, and where we see Michele Lamy has been vocal about her support with Palestine. And a lot of times people are scared of what they don't understand, and I think it's because people don't understand Michele, especially with how little is known about her, and especially with her appearance. And I feel like a lot of people judge based on appearance compared to someone as a person. Literally try to find anything about her family on the internet, and you can find few, if relevant, articles about her. Barely found what her first husband's name was, and I just think it's really interesting how she has kept these things about her like not available, So by 1979, Michele moved her family to the US in New York City. She opened a clothing line and then also ran two restaurant and nightclubs, I believe, in LA. First one was Café des Artistes and Le Du Cafés. I probably messed it up. The second cafe, it says a Provencal inspired restaurant and cabaret that was a favorite for Hollywood celebrities. The club was known for its eccentric style, and Lamey would perform torch songs in French. It was located in a parking lot and featured a mobile garden bar, mosaic tables, and a patio with a grapevine canopy. However, it closed in 2004. Quote, while we know Michele Lamy as the patron saint of goth fashion and co-founder of Owens Corp, the multifaceted creative, was a one-time restaurateur who ran Los Angeles hotspot Le Do Cafe. The Provencal-inspired eatery was established in 1996. Quickly became a hotspot thanks to Lamy's eccentric style and an eclectic circle of artists and designer friends. A place to see and be seen, it was a favorite for Hollywood power lunches, post-award show dinners with notable who's who clientele, including Jake Gyllenhaal, Kristen Dunst, Spike Jonze, and Madonna. Unfortunately for LA's party scene, the fabled eatery shuttered its doors in 2004, so Lamy could move back to Paris as Owen's then boyfriend was gearing up to become one of the biggest names in fashion. This brings us into Rick Owens, the Lord of Darkness, and he deserves his own video himself, but we're just gonna get into it. So now we get to Rick Owens, her now husband. She is 20 years his senior, and I think their relationship is also just as interesting as themselves as individuals. Rick had a boyfriend before Michelle, and I believe that is how he met Michelle, was through his ex, and eventually they got married, and it seems like they have a good relationship together. Seems like they complement each other, although there's this famous quote that says something about a gypsy asking some. I'll put it there, you can read it. And it seems like he has a good relationship with Scarlett, calls her his daughter, and he talks about her, I believe, in his Vogue tour of his house, and she painted a mural for him in his room. And of course we have to talk about how Michelle had worn Rick's head as a clothing piece, I guess, and starting his line Owens Corp. Now, if you look at Rick Owens' designs, his collections, it's very gothic and very futuristic, but also very, like, I don't want to say prehistoric, but you know, you can tell. He explains it so well in this one clip, and I'll insert it here.
These pieces have been with me for a while. These are objects from our, I guess, homeware collection. We have a bronze gourd vase and rock crystal goblets. I think of these as relics of the pieces that we do for the interiors. These could be futuristic or they could be ancient. I like that we're using the classical materials like bronze and rock crystal. Everything that I do is kind of a blend of the past and the futuristic, so that they kind of create a retro-futuristic aesthetic that I've been developing.
He himself is a controversial artist figure, which he had models wearing models in one of his fashion shows as an example of his controversialness. Rick has made himself way more than a household name in the fashion industry, especially now. A lot of people are acquainted with Rick Owens, who are, you can't be a fashion person without knowing who Rick Owens is or knowing about his collections and his pieces. And fun fact, he also went to Otis College, whereas I went to for fashion for a little bit before I dropped out, and then he went to Cal Arts or something like that to go to school for draping, which draping is super hard to do, I would say, as a consensus for the majority. It is a very difficult thing, and anyone who knows how to drape, I commend you, because I can never do it. And I see why it's so expensive at Otis, because Rick Owens obviously went there. And I remember my friend posted while she was at Otis that Michele Lamy came to school, and that's of course after I dropped out of the school, but Michele Lamy was there, so I think they kind of do like mentorship and stuff, which is cool. Michele Lamy also compliments Rick very well, and I think obviously she has a lot of influence on Rick's fashion and his line. She is also in charge of Rick's, I believe, furniture line, and in his house tour he basically says he knocks off this one artist that he really likes that makes these two chairs, and I think that's kind of funny that he admits that.
They're very severe and yet kind of fantastic at the same time. Giacomo Balla is usually a lot more colorful than this, so I was really lucky to find something so subdued. They are so uncomfortable. They're hard. The angle of the back, you have to sit so upright. So it feels like a church pew, a little bit punishing. I rarely sit in them, but I love them so much. And I've probably kind of knocked them off with my furniture collection. to a certain extent.
But yeah, Michele Lamy is also in charge of that as well. And she like goes to the manufacturing place and like picks out the marble, and Rick will give her his sketches and she'll kind of like bring them to life. I also wanted to mention this one interview Michele does with Dirty Magazine. I thought it was interesting because this is the most that we can find out about her family. So it says, "Are you not religious because of how you were raised? You were raised in Jura in the mountains of eastern France." She says, "The region of Sauve, I know I don't say it right, where my family's from is very Catholic, but my grandparents were not. We're very Republican, not the American way, but for the Republic." So the interviewer says, "Anti-monarch, pro-democracy, and your parents?" She says, "My parents were in the resistance during World War II, and that's how they met. My mother was bringing food to the people in the woods. My father was a mountain climber, and he helped people get across the border to Switzerland." So I think that's really interesting that her family has kind of those ties to like the war and just playing an important part in it. An interview says, "And you?" Michele says, "I was raised in a nun boarding school, not a convent boarding school with nuns." So I think it's kind of interesting to see. This is like the very brief kind of look into her life growing up, and seeing her go from a boarding school with nuns to being a cabaret dancer to being the icon of fashion and being 80 years old. Like that's kind of it's kind of badass, like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I want to be 80 years old and doing that. But yeah, and she also has a lot of, like, ties to celebrities, a lot of connects, like Usher to A$AP Rocky to FKA Twigs, I think, even, to Madonna, to the Kardashians and stuff like that. I think that's really interesting. Of course, we gotta talk about her tattooed fingers, which a lot of people find, like, oh, she's into witchcraft, she's into blah, 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 and so people get a little scared about it. And it says, "With her tattooed fingers and gold-plated teeth, she was an emblematic figure of nightlife in LA in the middle of the 90s. Her tattoos were inspired by the Berbers during her first trip to Tunisia when she was around 17 or 18 years old." So these women, the Berbers, they would blacken their fingers with dye, and it was basically, I think, for a spiritual practice, I believe, to be more spiritual. And she also like draws a line on her forehead, and she doesn't know why she does it, but she has been doing it literally every single day of her life.
Stuff in color.
The tattoo on my fingers, they are a version of what could be some Berber artwork. So I always look at it. I would never have a tattoo like somewhere I cannot look at. It's a combination of a lot of rings from France. The main thing is they have to go with the tattoo. I'm always wearing them. There's some days the combination is right, some days the working process. I'm doing this with a crayon, but I'm getting up and it's the first thing I do. My head does not function with that.
But I think in recent interviews, I don't think she wears it, but she did it for quite a while, and she said it's to keep her grounded, and a lot of people think it has to do with the third eye. She did create her own clothing line. I know we're kind of jumping out in places, but she did create her own clothing line called Lamey in 1984. So that's how she got Rick Owens incorporated into her line. So that's when she hired Rick Owens, who became her business partner, then companion and husband. In 2003, they left to Paris, and that's when they got married in 2006. So from LA to Paris. Like I said, she produces the furniture with Owens brand. It says she designs jewelry with Lori Watkin, etc. Appeared in FKA Twigs and Black Asteroid music videos. She formed the band Laviscar with the artist Nico Vassalari, and her daughter Scarlet Rouge. So she also had like a little music side project, which is pretty cool. And at the 2016 Venice Biennale, I'm not gonna try. Lamey transformed an old container ship into a floating saloon. The same year, she recorded songs with her good friend rapper A$AP Rocky. Rocky said about Lamey, "Hardly anyone knows how important you have been behind the scenes for my career. You did not just design my album covers, you took me to art fairs and showed me the art world." So I think this is really interesting and sums up Michele Lamy as a whole and as a person, that she is very influential in a lot of people's art and a lot of celebrities, and she is said to pretty much run behind the scenes of Hollywood, of the industry, and just run the whole thing without even people knowing that she does. And I think this brings us to my